Right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating, somewhat hidden mechanics of human neuroplasticity. And we're going to do this through the groundbreaking insights and, honestly, the incredibly unusual personal journey of Stanford neurobiologist Dr. Andrew Huberman. We're going to break down exactly how the brain learns, adapts, and fundamentally reshapes its own physical structure.
But first, I really want to challenge your basic notion of human potential. We so often think of our personalities, our habits, and our capabilities as being pretty much set in stone by the time we reach adulthood. But is it actually possible to completely hack your nervous system to alter your destiny? I want to set the stakes right here for the hard biological science we're about to dive into, because the answer is a resounding biological yes. Section 1. The Feral Neuroscientist. Dr. Huberman's highly unlikely origin story really serves as the ultimate proof that radical biological change is possible. He definitely didn't start out as some polished academic prodigy. Actually, as he puts it, I was totally feral. He went from being locked up in a youth facility, running with a truant skater crowd in San Francisco, literally living in a squat with a pet ferret, to eventually pursuing academia. And how did he do it? Through sheer, fear-driven structural discipline. He essentially just decided, I'm going to just decide to do school, acting almost entirely out of a raw survival instinct. Let's trace how this all actually builds. At 13, his parents split and he enters this chaotic, parentless skater scene. By 18, things escalate and he's put in a locked youth facility. But crucially, he begins therapy with a mentor who points him toward mindfulness and physical fitness. Fast forward to 20, he commits to academia, literally using a timer to force himself to study through intense agitation. And today, well, he's a tenured neurobiology professor at Stanford. Talk about a complete rewiring.
Section 2. Decoding Neuroplasticity.
So how exactly does a brain wired for chaos and truancy learn to sit still, process complex physics, and eventually teach at Stanford? Well, it all comes down to neuroplasticity. This is your nervous system's built-in ability to modify its neural pathways and algorithms in response to experience. Now, while a kid's brain wires passively, like how a toddler can easily absorb 3 languages without even trying, the adult brain, it's stubborn. It requires intense focus and a real sense of urgency to trigger any meaningful structural change. You can't just passively hope to change, you have to force it.
And this biological change happens in a very strict 2-step process. Step 1 is intense focus and agitation. This literally marks the specific synapses that need to change. But step 2 is where the magic actually happens: deep sleep and rest. The intense focus merely triggers the change, but the actual rewiring, the physical, structural shifting of your brain, only occurs when the brain is completely resting.
Section 3. The chemistry of focus.
To figure out how to trigger this whole process, we really need to look at the specific neurochemicals that act as the biological engine driving our focus. Think of this as the user manual to your own mind. First up is acetylcholine. Think of this as the spotlight neurochemical. It gets released during intense concentration and it actively marks specific synapses for change. When you're sitting there analyzing duration, path, and outcome, like asking yourself, okay, how long will this take? What are the steps? And what's the ultimate goal? Acetylcholine acts like a bright spotlight, highlighting the exact neural pathways that need to be upgraded later on while you sleep.
Next, we have norepinephrine, which you probably know better as adrenaline. This is your agitation engine. And look, we really need to bust the myth of the effortless flow state right here. So many of us think that learning or doing deep work should just feel smooth and joyful right from the jump. But biologically, agitation, stress, and frustration are the exact gates you absolutely must pass through to achieve focus. Think about how wild that is. That friction you feel isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's literally the biological warm-up required to initiate change in your brain.
And finally, we have dopamine. We usually think of dopamine as just some cheap thrill from social media likes or eating junk food, right? But biologically, it is an essential internal buffer. It's released when you hit a milestone, and its primary job is to suppress the rising levels of adrenaline. Adrenaline eventually makes you want to quit, but dopamine pushes that adrenaline back down, giving you the energy and essentially the biological permission to just keep going. Which brings us to a massive, massive difference between external and internal rewards. External rewards, things like gold stars, money, or praise, can actually drain your intrinsic drive over time. Whereas internal rewards, literally just mentally telling yourself, yes, I'm on the right path, continuously release dopamine to buffer your quit response. This internal rewarding is exactly how ultra-runners and Navy SEALs survive brutal, grueling conditions. They micro-slice their goals and self-reward internally to just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Section 4. Action drives the mind.
So how do we practically apply all this chemistry? Well, by flipping the traditional self-help narrative completely upside down. We're almost always told to change our thoughts so we can change our behavior, right? But biology dictates the exact opposite. Running the nervous system backwards by changing your physical behavior first is biologically the most effective way to subsequently change your thoughts and feelings. You have to start with behavior, which then shifts your thoughts, which alters your feelings, and finally transforms your overall perceptions. You really cannot easily control the monkey mind with the mind alone.
Just like the saying goes, mood follows action. Think about ultra-endurance athlete David Goggins visiting Dr. Huberman's lab. Put in front of a virtual reality test, Goggins specifically volunteered for the VR Shark Tank, precisely because he hates sharks. He uses forward physical action, leaning directly into discomfort to trigger dopamine, conquer fear, and literally rewrite his neural circuitry. He doesn't wait around to feel brave, he acts first, and the mood follows.
Section 5. Tools for rest and reset.
Since we now know for sure that neuroplasticity requires intense focus followed by deep rest, let's explore your biological toolkit. These are actionable, real-time physiological tools you can use immediately to shift your states of arousal and manage stress on demand. Instead of feeling entirely at the mercy of your environment, you can use rapid breathing to wake up, the physiological sigh to calm down, visual focal shifts, and deep rest protocols. Let's look closer at the physiological sigh. This is an incredible real-time technique where taking physical control of your diaphragm rapidly brings down autonomic arousal. It's super simple. Step 1, 2 quick inhales through the nose to fully dilate those little sacs in your lungs. Step 2, 1 extended exhale through the mouth to massively offload carbon dioxide. Doing just 1 to 3 of these sighs can instantly calm your nervous system right in the middle of a stressful situation. It's like a biological brake pedal. And it turns out there is a totally hardwired connection between your eyes and your brain. Our visual focus directly commands our mental focus. Focal vision, like staring intently at a screen or reading a book, drives intense cognitive attention and uses up a lot of adrenaline. On the other hand, panoramic vision, just relaxing your gaze to view a broad horizon, actually turns off that stress circuit, resets your nervous system, and saves tons of energy. We can actually clearly categorize these different states. Focal vision triggers high alert. Panoramic vision triggers rest. But closing your eyes completely, whether that's in sleep or in deep relaxation practices like Yoga Nidra, triggers the crucial rewiring state. Letting go of analyzing your path and your outcomes is the exact biological phase where the brain builds its new capacity.
The number 10. Just 10 minutes a day of deep relaxation practices, like listening to a clinical hypnosis script or doing Yoga Nidra, can dramatically improve your sleep, lower your stress, and massively enhance your neuroplasticity. You don't even have to be asleep to trigger rewiring. You literally just need to turn off that intense duration, path, outcome analysis for a few minutes.
All of this brings us to a pretty profound realization. The brain and nervous system are built to be steered. You are absolutely not a victim of your thoughts or your past. You have a physical control panel built right into your body. Through your breathing, your visual focus, and your physical actions, you hold the levers to steer your own biological evolution.
And I'll leave you with this final thought to consider as you step away from this explainer and back into your daily life. If action drives the mind, and behavior is what fundamentally rewires the adult brain, what single action will you take right now to change yours?